What is the worst slash scariest thing that has woken you up? Actually just happened last week. Woke up to my dog growling and someone was shining a light into my window at 2 AM. I was super out of it and trying to process what was going on since the light was coming from someone in my fenced in backyard. Then my dog barked loud and the person ran away. A literal living nightmare of mine. Thank you for reminding me of the constant fear I had forgotten. One important preface. At the time I lived alone. No roommates. One time I was taking a nap in my bedroom, happened to have a really horrible nightmare, and then woke up to some strange man standing in my bedroom shining a flashlight in my face while I laid in bed. Both of us freaked the fuck out. It turned out he was the maintenance guy for the apartment complex I lived in, finally responding to a maintenance request I had put in like 6 months before. He thought the apartment was empty, then heard me thrashing around from the nightmare and went and looked into the dark bedroom, blackout curtains, with his flashlight to see what was making the noise. After both of us recovered from our near heart attacks he was extremely apologetic, and he did finally fix my garbage disposal, but Jesus Christ that was fucking terrifying for a few seconds. What do you expect? Your maintenance request has been received. Please be home between June and September to accommodate our technician. I've told this before, but my son has taken to sleepwalking. He used to just stand by the bed, silently, until I'd snap awake and see his silhouette looming over me. Now, he's taken to turning on the lights when he's sleepwalking. I woke up one night, and he was standing there, turning the lights on and off, completely zoned out. I get him back to bed, and I think, fuck this, I'm sleeping downstairs for the rest of the night. Around 3 o'clock I wake up, all of the lights downstairs are on. My math teacher calling out my name 6+ times in a room of 20 other students and me slowly waking up while mumbling SHHHH be quiet, not realizing that the voice I was hearing wasn't, in fact, in a dream. My buddy and I were camping and saw a bear, so we decided to sleep in his car. I was still worried about the bear, so it took forever to fall asleep. Well, right after I fell asleep, I woke up to screams and something grabbing my face. I immediately started crying, knowing that a bear was about to rip my face off. Then I realized it was my friend having a night terror. I was livid. I imagined the bear was also annoyed by 2 random people sleeping in his car. Anyone here have one of those robotic vacuums? When the power goes out those fuckers start wandering around lost, bumping into shit. Absolutely terrifying thing to be woken up by at 3 in the morning. I had one of those. I think their homing sensor slash timer thingies got tripped during a thunderstorm. My old Rottweiler mix lost her shit. She was going senile and anything out of routine was terrifying, and broke it. I no longer have a Roomba. A few years back I hear a thud in the hallway and my 4-year-old daughter screaming in pain. She had fallen and gotten a small but deep cut just above her left eyebrow. When I got out to the hallway, her face, hands and pajamas were covered in blood and she was holding her hands against her face. I thought she lost her eye. A quick trip to the ER for a couple of stitches and she was right as rain. But I gained almost all of my grey hair that night. You have been visited by Money Pigeon. Like the video and subscribe within 5.6 seconds and you will get rich. Now back to scheduled programming. My 2-year-old standing over me with a kitchen knife. He wanted sliced apples at 4 o'clock in the morning and somehow managed to climb up on table and pull out a knife. Now we keep them in the cupboard. Apartment on fire. Actually this week is the 5th anniversary. In January of this year a car ran into my bedroom at 1 AM. Those asking for more info. Basically I had just gotten home from visiting my parents and I went to bed around 12:30 AM. At 1:04 AM a car ran into my bedroom slash connected half bathroom. My bathroom is about 3 feet squared, so that was completely destroyed and the car was partially in my room also. My roommate and I went outside after calling 911 to search for the driver. Thankfully he was okay. He was laying on the ground about 20 feet away from a car. He had empty beer cans in his car and pill bottles. He told us he was 25 but we soon found out from police he was 19. This whole situation has been a mess because my landlord wanted to do all the repairs himself. I just moved back into my room last week and had been living in the living room for the past 2 months. I'm glad to finally have a bedroom again, but sleeping in that room still makes me nervous at night. I still can't use my bathroom after 10 PM because it makes me nervous. It'll be fine eventually. I just need to get used to it. My girlfriend's mother telling me there were 2 police officers and my mother at the front door. It was 4 AM and I was sleeping at the girlfriend's house. They had come to inform me my dad had died. That was around 14 years ago. I'm afraid to say that I don't think this sort of wake up won't happen again. Adoreju. Wake up. I think the house is on fire. Turned out it was the downstairs neighbor burning his wife's car up. In grad school, my roommate standing directly over me, staring down at me. She couldn't decide if she should wake me up or not. She kept hearing this deep voice mumbling at inconsistent intervals and was torn between, there's someone in the house, and, I'm finally actually losing my mind. She was studying psych at the time. We finally figured out that it was the smoke detector. Wanting new batteries, but good lord, it was terrifying. I was maybe 5 woke up to someone banging on the back door followed by gunshots as they entered the house. It was my ex-stepdad. He'd come to try to kill my mother. Thank God he was unsuccessful. Woman screaming for her life. Luckily for her it was a big apartment complex and about 30 people got outside before they could shove her in the trunk. Her head was wrapped up in a duct tape mask. It was all quite fucked up. A 6.0 earthquake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Probably the most helpless I have ever felt. I expected my ceiling fan to fall on me. When you're lying in bed with no protection nearby, you basically just have to hold on and hope everything is alright. The sound of a fox doing his mating call. It sounded like a woman screaming, and it was right outside my window. Woke up by my dad, blind, to check if my mom is okay. Last stage cancer, and nope, she passed away. It was 13 years ago. My dog barking only once in a low voice. He will generally go wild if someone is in front of the door or passes through the hallway. Then sitting up in a way he never does and staring at the door. Nothing happened. It was scary as fuck cause it was everything that he usually does not do. Things that are off are scarier than grotesque things that happen emo. The sound of my stepfather screaming, "Get the fuck out of our house." I'm in bed thinking that a person is in here, but turns out it was our neighbor's dog, lol. That night there was a storm and it knocked over one of their trees onto our fence, so their dog came into our backyard and into our house through a doggy door. The general alarm shrieking through the 1MC speaker right outside of my rack when I was on a submarine. Someone's clothes had caught fire in the dryer, the only one on the boat. I was deep asleep and woke up confused as hell, scared witless and choking on smoke. We used to have this weird old Labrador that lived next door but would come sleep at us some nights. It was weird because it would stand on its hind legs and trot around for a bit before getting on all fours again. One night I woke to what sounded like someone walking around the room. For about 5 seconds I completely shit myself thinking there was a child walking around my room before I realized it was that dog. I think it did it for food. One time my son woke me in the middle of the night, crawling into my bed and telling me a man was bothering him. I usually try to go banish the monsters in his room so he can go back to sleep in there. So I went and admonished the air, "Leave my son alone. This isn't your place." This time my son wanted to stay in my room and not go back to his own bed. So I made room for him and moved over to the edge of my bed and fell back asleep. About 30 minutes later, I had a frightening lucid dream that this tall, shrouded man was at the side of my bed and started jabbing at my side, telling me that I interrupted his fun, and now he was going to bother me. I couldn't move and I just had to put up with it until I was able to get my dream life willpower to focus and let me move out. A spider landing on my face. In retrospect, the little guy was probably as terrified as I was. Think it had accidentally fallen somehow, but goddamn it was scary. Fell asleep on my arm once when I was 13. Woke up because I couldn't feel it and in the dark of my room, illuminated only by faint moonlight, I saw an arm on my pillow. It was my arm of course, but since I had zero feeling of it I freaked out for like 30 seconds because I thought it had fallen off in the middle of the night. I calmed down and then I jerked off with it. I've woken up several times to the sound of tornado sirens going off in the middle of the day. They test them on the first Wednesday of every month, but when they wake you up your first thought isn't what day it is. First was a phone call at 5 AM. to let us know that 2 family members were killed by a drunk driver. Second was a smoke alarm as the entire basement was burning and the fire was almost at the top of the steps. We all barely made it out. My house trying to fall apart. I was remodeling a nightmare of a room in a 1925 house. Got into the walls. Anyone who has done this knows what I'm talking about. And it was a nightmare. I removed the layer of plywood behind the drywall to see what the studs looked like. Well, the fucking plywood was holding up the walls. The studs had more or less disintegrated. So, the whole night I heard constant, loud settling noises, not normal ones, loud pops, wood crunching, etc. Next morning I set up an exterior brace and that kept it sound long enough to properly repair it. The sound of something breaking over the baby monitor, and my son crying out. He'd managed to ninja his way out of his bed, had no idea until that day he could get over the railing, out of his room, into the bathroom, and found a vase under the sink, dropped it, which shattered it, and sliced open his leg pretty good, required casting and surgical repair. He's good now, over a decade later, limps sometimes when he gets overly tired, but otherwise no permanent damage. Sleep paralysis. You wake up, but not really. You watch someone coming towards you. You can't move though. You can't scream. You just watch him come at you. Woke up to scratching, chittering, and screeching at my 2nd floor window. Sounded otherworldly. Got the courage to look outside. Saw 2 squirrels fucking on a tree branch. Middle of the night. Panicked yelling from my daughter's room. Adrenaline now. Heart immediately thundering. Dad instincts on 12. She had a very bad nightmare, and I thought I was living mine for a moment. A friend of mine holding a shotgun, a box of shells, and crying. He asked me to take the shotgun away. I did. He'd been planning to kill himself. I went with him when he returned the shotgun to the store. This is a gold sponge gar. It only appears once every 1 million sponge gar appearances. Like the video within 5 seconds for good luck. On top, food chain won't stop. New game, hot box that blue haze. 1 lock, 2 chains, no bras, 2 babes, mic drop. New stage, lights in my rear view. 5 cops, food race, faster than a Tesla. They say I'm exhausted.